Welcome to Beyond the Music, the podcast where we dive into the lives and stories of people who shaped the world of music. I am Karina.
And I am Lena. We're both classically trained singers, and this podcast is our chance to explore the fascinating intersections of music, history, and humanity.
In our previous episode, Lena discussed... I'm glad you're getting enjoyment out of this. The castrati. And today, I will be bringing the story of Chevalier de Saint-Georges to the podcast.
Okay.
The reason I have decided to research this individual is because this episode is posted on July 16. On July 14, in 1789, a crowd of Parisians stormed and seized the Bastille, a medieval fortress and political prison in Paris. This event, known as the storming of the Bastille, is widely considered the beginning of the French Revolution. The Bastille had become a symbol of power and oppression, and its capture was a key moment in the overthrow of the monarchy. So that's one inspiration I had. The other inspiration is because I just watched the movie Chevalier from 2022. And he lived through this uprising and the start of the French Revolution, and even played a part in the later aspects of it. Very interesting man. So, Joseph Bologne, Chevalier de Saint-Georges, was born Christmas Day, December 25, 1749. He passed away on 9th of June, 1799. He was a French violinist, conductor, composer, and soldier. He was excellent in fencing, an athlete, and an accomplished dancer.
Wow.
Just an incredible man. Incredible. His historical significance lies partly in his distinctive background as a biracial free man of color. He was actually at some point more famous than Mozart.
Oh,
of
wow.
How talented he was. It's incredible. Bologne was the first classical composer of African descent to attain widespread acclaim in European music. He composed an array of violin concertos, string quartets, sinfonia, concertants, violin duets, sonatas, 2 symphonies, and an assortment of stage works, notably opera comique. Mm-hmm. As a young man, he won a fencing contest, leading to his appointment as a gendarme de la gendarme de la garde du roi by Louis XVI. Having received music and musical composition lessons, he joined the orchestra Le Concert de Amateur, culminating in his appointment as its conductor in 1773. So he was already in the upper echelons of music. Mm. And here's where it gets interesting. Marie Antoinette. See, French Revolution, Marie Antoinette. She attended some of Saint-Georges' concerts at the Hôtel de Soubise, arriving sometimes without notice. So funny enough, the orchestra wore court attire for all of its performances, just in case she showed. Marie Antoinette preferred to hold her musicales in the salon of her private apartment in the palace, so Versailles, or in the recently established Théâtre de la Rien in the gardens of Versailles. She limited the audience to her intimate circle and a few musicians, among them the Chevalier de Saint-Georges, admitted to perform music with the Queen. So it was a very, very small group, and he was part of this. Mm-hmm. Saint-Georges probably played his violin sonatas with the Queen, Marie Antoinette, playing the forte piano.
Wow.
It's incredible. Queen Marie Antoinette was a talented musician herself, particularly skilled at harpsichord, and often hosted private musicales at Versailles, or in her private little area, the Petit Trianon. However, her tastes and those of the court were often perceived as frivolous and out of touch with the struggles of the common people, contributing to the growing resentment that fueled the revolution. So it's all connecting. And before continuing on, I have to mention Mozart proposing marriage to her. I just have to put that in there because it's such a cute story. The story goes, if I remember it correctly, Mozart at age 6, he was very young. He was performing for her in Austria before she became Marie Antoinette, before she married. He fell off of the piano bench. Marie Antoinette, being kind, helped him up, and Mozart proposed marriage to her. I just have to put that in there because it's such a beautiful story. So going back, Marie Antoinette was a skilled musician, known for her playing of the harpsichord. She was a student of the celebrated composer Christoph Willibald Gluck. Mm-hmm. So she had quite the training.
Yeah.
So she held private musicales at Versailles, often in her petit apartment de la Rien or the Theatre de la Rien. She enjoyed attending concerts of music by prominent composers like Haydn, even declaring his Symphony No. 85 one of her favorites. Unfortunately, this relationship between Saint-Georges and Marie Antoinette will turn out to be detrimental to Saint-Georges. So, at the beginning, the relationship between Marie Antoinette and Saint-Georges was a ripe subject for gossip in the royal court.
Gossip, here we go.
Gossip. And if anyone knows the history of Versailles, it was a hotbed of gossip. Their musicales came to an end because they became, quote, too close. It was not lost on observers at the time that Saint-Georges also had a reputation as a charming ladies' man.
Oh, well.
So the relationship between Marie Antoinette and Saint-Georges harmed his career, but also in other ways later in his life, which I will discuss later. Continuing on, in 1776, Saint-Georges began conducting the Paris Opera. He was a conductor there. And early in 1776, the Académie Royale de Musique of the Paris Opera was struggling financially and artistically, so both. Saint-Georges was proposed as the next director of the opera house. As the creator of the first disciplined French orchestra since Lully, Saint-Georges was the obvious choice. However, this prospect was thwarted by opposition from certain performers who resisted the idea of being led by an individual of color. Unbelievable. You have this genius here. And anyway, you can see how passionate I am. Around this time, he shifted his focus, instead of conducting, to composing operas. In 1781, after the Compte Rendu detailing the deplorable state of the nation's finances was published, you see, French Revolution coming up, Saint-Georges' Concert des Amateurs had to be disbanded for lack of funding. Luckily, now you're going to love this one, playwright, arms dealer, and secret de roi, so the spy for the king, Pierre Caron de Beaumarchais, yes, the Beaumarchais of the Figaro plays, began to collect funds from private contributors, including many of the concert's patrons, to send aid for the American cause. Saint-Georges turned to his friend and admirer Philippe d'Orléans, Duc de Chartres, for help in order to reinstate his orchestra. Responding to Saint-Georges' plea, Philippe revived the orchestra as part of the Loge Olympique, an exclusive Freemason lodge. This orchestra was made up of the finest musicians in Paris who could qualify as members of the Freemasons. The orchestra was then renamed Le Concert Olympique, with practically the same people. It performed in the Théâtre du Palais Royal. In 1785, Count d'Ogny, the music coordinator of the Olympic Lodge, where this orchestra was since 1782, and a member of its cello section, commissioned Haydn to compose 6 new symphonies for the Concert Olympique. He asked Saint-Georges to write to Haydn and settle the details. So you see, he had so many connections. Conducted by Saint-Georges, Haydn's Paris symphonies were first performed at the Salle de Garde Suisse of the Tuileries, which was a much larger hall in order to accommodate the huge public demand to hear Haydn's new work. Now, during this time, Saint-Georges was still acquainted and remained friendly with several composers, notably Salieri and Gluck. His friend, Louis-Philippe, the same man who was able to bring the orchestra into the Freemasons' lodge, was now Duke of Orleans because of the political shift. So Saint-Georges was presented with a small flat in the Palais Royal opposite the Louvre. Now, it's really important to mention that during this time, composers, artists were all dependent on patrons. So you will start to see that as the French Revolution continues, Saint-Georges' life became more upheaved because of it. So Saint-Georges was drawn into the whirlpool of political and social activity around Philippe, Duc d'Orléans. And a new person, Brissot de Warville, admirers of the British parliamentary system and the constitutional monarchy, which was the main opposition to the French absolute monarchy. Meanwhile, the Duke's ambitious plans for reconstructing the Palais Royal left the Orchestra Olympique without a home and Saint-Georges unemployed. So, upheaval. Seeing his protégé at loose ends and recalling that the Prince of Wales often expressed a wish to meet the legendary fencer, Philippe, Duc d'Orléans, approved Brissot's plan to dispatch Saint-Georges to London. He believed it was a way to ensure the regent-in-waiting's support of Philippe, so Prince of Wales, was hoping, or Philippe was hoping, that the Prince of Wales would support him as future regent of France. While Saint-Georges was away, the Concert Olympique had resumed performing at the Hôtel de Soubise, the old hall of the amateurs. The Italian violinist Jean-Baptiste Viotti, another big name, had been appointed as conductor. While Saint-Georges was in England, the French Revolution broke. So, on July 14th, 1789, we have the fall of the Bastille and the start of the French Revolution. On August 26, 1789, the Assembly declared equal rights to all French people, but Saint-Georges wasn't there. He was in England, promoting the Duc d'Orléans as regent of France, and at the same time working with abolitionists. Also, during this time of the start of the French Revolution, we also see that Marie Antoinette's music choices also affected her. So Marie Antoinette's love of Baroque music and her patronage of composers like Gluck were seen as a contrast to the burgeoning revolutionary fervor which favored more patriotic and nationalistic music. Her musical choices were sometimes interpreted as a sign of her Austrian heritage and her perceived disinterest in French culture, further fueling anti-royal sentiment. Upon Saint-Georges' return to France, he joined the National Guard in Lille and then served as a colonel in the Légion Saint-Georges. And this is also where we see Marie Antoinette's relationship with him severely hurting him. His social and professional ties to prominent figures such as Marie Antoinette and unfortunately now the despised Philippe, Duke of Orléans, a lot of political unrest, made him a target of the Reign of Terror, culminating in a period of imprisonment spanning at least 11 months.
Oh, wow.
What a life.
Mm-hmm.
According to a number of his biographers, at the end of his life, Saint-Georges lived in abject poverty. Rejected by the army, Saint-Georges appealed again, saying, "I have no other resources," but was still rejected because of those connections. At the age of 51, he found solace in his music. Sounding like any veteran performer, proud of his longevity, he said, "Towards the end of my life, I was particularly devoted to my violin. Never before did I play it so well." Saint-Georges died age 53, June of 1799. His death certificate was lost in 1871 when the city archives were destroyed. But he left such an impact. Saint-Georges was a contemporary of Mozart, and as I said before, at some time, Saint-Georges was more famous than when Mozart was in Paris.
Yeah, but he just had bad luck with his connections.
Because of the political upheaval, the French Revolution, records being destroyed, a lot of Saint-Georges' music was unknown.
Mm-hmm.
In recent years, though, orchestras and opera houses have been staging his works, such as L'Amant Anonyme, and his violin concertos and symphonies are being performed and recorded. So L'Amant Anonyme was composed in 1780. It's an opera comique in 2 acts with a ballet, and it's the only surviving opera from Saint-Georges' repertoire. Despite the loss of some works, Saint-Georges' influence on classical music is being recognized, and his compositions are being appreciated for their quality and historical significance.
Mm-hmm.
I am so happy that this genius is finally getting the recognition that he deserves. It's incredible the life he lived, the people he worked with. I mean, he was on the violin while Marie Antoinette was on the pianoforte. Wow. So the movie that came out in 2022, it's called Chevalier. If anyone wants to have more information about this incredible genius, please watch that movie. It is so well done. I hope you enjoyed learning about the Chevalier de Saint-Georges as much as I did. And if you like this episode, please don't forget to subscribe and leave a review.
Next time, we'll delve into another fascinating chapter of music history. Until then, keep listening and discovering the story beyond the music.
See you next time.